for those that just joined us, thank you. We're talking about rape and sexual abuse in Nigeria. And Oluwatoyin Falaiye is our guest for today. As I said earlier, Oluwatoyin is a lawyer. She's a sexual abuse survivor. She's a mental health enthusiast. And she also runs an NGO that, caters for those that have been abused in the past. So, Toyin, with your permission, can we get right on it?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, so I'm going to start with one of your articles or posts. I'll quote you from what you said, and I want us to start from there. You said, and I quote, "I wanted to deal with something. There was a pain I had buried in the deep recess of my mind, and I saw law as a course I could study in the university. It's very perfectly fit with my revenge mission."
Yes. So we're going back memory lane, right? I was sexually abused. That's like an old story now. Can you hear me perfectly?
Yeah, I can hear you clearly. Yes. Can you all hear? Please just indicate. Thank you.
And going through abuse, at some point, I lost myself. I knew I was this young girl who was full of life, vibrant. I wanted to be a broadcaster. I actually wanted to cast the news. And I used to watch a lot of people on NTA, especially back then as a kid, Miriam Arthur, Fumi Yonda, and the rest of them. So I really wanted to be like them. I already planned how I was going to work. And then from NTA, move to channels, and then move to CNN. That was my big dream, but then the life started happening, and I just could, even as a young girl, I just couldn't find myself anymore. I just could not place where I belonged anymore. So by the time I was through with secondary school and having gone through 7 years of abuse, by the time I was 18, it started when I was about 11 going on 12. And then it was time to go into the university. I practically didn't even know what to go and read. I was lost. So in filling the JAM form, I wanted Unilag, like every girl who grew up in Lagos, and Unilag was the in thing. I wanted Unilag, and then I wanted to read mass comm and then English language. And it was in the course of going through the brochure that I saw law, and I saw what they wrote underneath it, what you could do as a lawyer, defend the less privileged, and all of that. I was like, oh, it just dawned on me that, okay, if I read law, then I could sue my abuser as an adult. That was just the old reason. I was a commercial student. I wanted to go and do accounting at some point and all that. But then I saw that and I said, oh, I could actually sue my abuser. And that's how I ended up reading law, actually. And like I always say, it's not like I'm doing badly as a lawyer, but I know that that's one of the blows abuse dealt to me, by making me deviate from my original, plan and passion. And people always ask me, have you sued your abuser now? No, I have not.
Yeah.
Is he still alive? Yes, he is. Why are you not suing him anymore? This was a pain, like I said, I buried in myself for 22 years. And I at some point, I just lived, with this, it's called selective amnesia, right? You just decide to forget certain things about your life and about yourself. And then not until I became a full-blown adult and it began to just come back all over again. And at that point, what I was feeling was pain, a very deep-seated pain. The type that if I had come face to face with this person, I probably would have committed murder. And then my aunt had passed at that time, and I left Lagos. Leaving Lagos was also one of my escape routes. I wanted to leave the environment. I wanted to leave the house. I wanted to leave everything that reminded me of that pain. And then so I found myself in a new location. So by the time I began to process my pain 3-4 years ago, I remember very well. I don't know. I know that a lot of people joining us are Muslims and Christians, but I have to have a conversation with the Holy Spirit. And what I heard was, there is purpose in your pain. Find it. So, alas, for me, the purpose was no longer suing my abuser. The purpose in my pain was to help other people to heal, to fight for other people who are going through some form of abuse, And so I channeled my pain and the resolve to sue my abuser into helping other women and children, and providing safe spaces. So that's how,
You
I've been working as a lawyer and then
okay.
taking up the fight. And then you now realize that about a year or two ago, there's been now so much noise, so much awareness. And for those of us in the sexual abuse safe space, we even feel that we're not doing enough because it seems like the more noise we're making, the more cases of abuse we're getting daily. But like people say, it's because social media, has helped,
Yes, to an extent, yes.
for people to kind of get more information and become more
To get
aware
informed, yes.
of this needs.
So
So that's it basically.
how you started as a lawyer. So, before we came live, we were talking and we were like, this is one of the hardest things to do, like sharing your experiences. However, you were like, you're willing to share your experience. So I wanted you to talk about, before we get to the other part, how it started, what age, and some of the mistakes you noticed that your mom did then, and all of that.
Okay, from the very beginning, I wasn't a city girl. I wasn't this fluent. I wasn't this pretty. I was a typical village girl. And my dad um, felt, how it is in the village. My dad had like 7 of us. He wanted to go and visit his elder sister in Lagos, and then he took me along. And I guess as he was going back, my aunt said, "Oh, why don't you leave her with me? Let me just help you raise this one." So that's how I landed in Lagos as a young 7-year-old girl. And I began to live with my aunt. That's my father's elder sister. So I call her my mom, actually, and her husband. And so I was a village girl through and through. I couldn't speak English language. I didn't know how to behave. You understand all of those things. So all of my experiences, I started getting them from Lagos and watching television and seeing white men on television and all of that. So it actually started when I was 10, but not with my uncle. I was actually raped at 10, but by a neighbor, a young guy too of about 17 years old. And I didn't even understand what it was. I just knew that I got back from school that day. I was alone in the house, and there was this boy on top of me. And then the next thing I started crying, and I was bleeding. And the neighbor came and cleaned me up, spanked the boy, and the boy, ran away. And she cleaned me up, and she told me not to tell anybody. So I didn't tell anybody because mommy she always used to go out a lot. She was trying to conceive also. She didn't have a child of her own. So she used to go out a lot. And then daddy was a police officer. He was also always never around. So I didn't tell anybody. And I just knew that I became afraid of that boy. So whenever our paths crossed, I would just shudder and then, just try to avoid him and be afraid of him. But the real abuse, like I always say, started about 2 years later when mommy's husband, started molesting me. And the first night is just here in my head. I can practically act it out in a movie. We had moved to this new house. It was a smaller apartment than where we were coming from. And so I didn't have a room anymore. The other house was a 3-bedroom, so I had a room to myself. But when we moved to the new house, I didn't have a room anymore. So I was asked to always sleep in the living room. So at night, I'll just pick my mattress and go to the living room and lie down. So that night, he came. And this was a man we had grown to be afraid of. He was very strict as a police officer, you understand. He used to beat us a lot whenever we heard. So we were already always afraid of him. We were not allowed to watch TV when he's there in the sitting room. That kind of setting was a very strict environment. So when he came that night, and I jolted awake, and I saw him holding my wrapper, the first thing that came to my mind was, oh, I must have done something wrong in the afternoon, and daddy was coming to punish me. So I was like, oh, daddy, please, I won't do it again. Daddy, please. And he said, shut up, lie down. And, I was just barely 12. My breasts were just beginning to sprout. And then he began to touch me all over my body. And then he left that night. And then the following night he came, and then he said, do you want to go back to the village? I said, no. He said, so if you tell anybody, I'll send you back to the village and you will die after 7 days. Those words always reverberate in my head. I can hear it right now as I talk to you. And I was so afraid, like, back to I was in primary 6 at that time because I started school late. I had to start primary 1 all over. And I was afraid of going back to the school because I was already very brilliant. By some stroke of luck, I became tops in class throughout the primary school. I don't know how that happened. Looking back now, Toyin, the village girl, topping the class. But that was my life. I was already representing the school in competitions and all of that. So I did not want to go back to the village. And that was just it. So it was more like I just surrendered at that point. So every night they would come. And people would sometimes ask me, you mean practically every night? And I said, yes, every night. Because
From
I became
12.
like a pawn. Yes, I was barely 12. I was barely 12 years old. And it happened like that consistently. It was, I can't, because of public languages and all, I can't easily always express what it was. If people always just think it was, oh, rape. No, it wasn't just penetrative sex and just going out. It was a whole lot more. I used to be used to perform oral sex on him and all of that. And then by the time I turned 15, of course, a deep part of me knew it was wrong. I just knew it was wrong. But I could not tell. The fear was already, established in me. And for mom, it wasn't really a mistake, that she made. It was the mindset of the people of her time. She was, born in the 1940s. She was a typical African woman who adored her husband. Daddy was Lord and Master. So whatever he said in the house was law. So she also had a place. She was always afraid of him. And then she didn't have a child. It was already like, oh, she's the one who is barren. Whatever she does wrong, she will leave this marriage. So she also was afraid. So she was also going through emotional abuse. The man would go outside and impregnate other women and bring them in or bring the children in. So she was also going through, at that point she had become hypertensive. So I guess there was really no defense for me, because you imagine daddy would come and touch you at night, and then the next morning you still say, good morning, daddy. And you still go and wash daddy's car, do all of those things that would make him prepare for work and all of that. It was really a lot. It was a whole lot I had to deal with. So by the time I turned 15, I guess it had affected me. I was always, fortunately, I had like two personalities. Whenever I was in school, I was the bright, vivacious, talkative, playful, vibrant Toyin. And then whenever I was closing hours and I was on my way home, immediately I got to the estate gate, I just become withdrawn and taciturn and always angry. But like I said, mommy would even scold me for keeping a straight face. Why are you acting? I'm sending you on errands, you're acting funny. What is your problem? Okay, have you started following boys? All those kind of things. And I remember when I turned 13 and I started menstruating, and I went to the bathroom that day and I saw blood, and then nobody told us about menstruation. We didn't even know what it was. And then I told mommy that I saw blood, and she screamed, oh, you saw blood? That means boys have started touching you. Who has been touching you? And I said, Daddy, out of fear. And she said, shut up, not that kind of touch. Because, of course, Daddy used to beat us, and so he would touch us when beating us. So when I told her Daddy, she said, no, not Daddy's kind of touch. Because you shouldn't have started menstruating this early. I started when I was 16. How can you be doing it at 13? That was another battle. Because every month, I had to also show mommy the pad. It wasn't a pad anyway. It was cloth nappy. It was cloth. And I would have to wash it and reuse. Let's not go into that. And she also told me that it must come on particular days. Meanwhile, and she said any day it doesn't come on that date, it means somebody has touched me. And Daddy used to come and touch me. So if I was to see it on the 18th of next month and it didn't come, I'll go to the kitchen and cut my hand with a blade and then squeeze blood out of my hand on the nappy and put a little palm oil because I just needed to show her on the 18th that the period had come. But it didn't come. By whatever reasons, it was delaying, and I know that it touches me. So how would I explain to her that it didn't come because it was just a whole lot. It was really a whole lot. And we lived like that. By the time I turned 15, I can't forget that experience because that was the day I attempted my first suicide. It was this Ikeja cantonment bomb blast.
Bomb blast.
She did that 15 or 16 years, and then mommy had gone out. and then there was a bomb blast, and then she didn't come back, and then it was just Daddy and I in the house. So everybody was scared. People were already coming to our house to ask, oh, how is she? Have you heard from her? There was no phone, was not that popular at that time. The GSM had not become so popular. So there was no way we could reach her. And then that night, when everybody had left, sorry, can you see me clearly?
Yeah, I can. Yes.
When everybody had left, he took me into his bedroom on his bed, and he had sex with me maybe multiple times before morning. And I was pained because I knew we were looking for mommy. We were not even sure mommy would come back alive. And here I was being used as a sex tool. Like, and then the next morning, miraculously and thankfully, mommy got back. And this man was the first person to run to the door and hug his wife and give her a kiss. And I was just standing behind them, and I just had this rage in me. So I went to the kitchen in that rage and I took a knife. But in taking the knife, I actually wanted to harm myself. There was no way I was going to stab him. I didn't have that kind of courage anyway. And I just held the knife, and mommy came into the kitchen and she was like, what are you doing with the knife? I said, oh, I'm just trying to arrange, things back into where they're supposed to be. And that night, I actually cried myself to sleep. That was when I understood how wicked this person could be. And then so it continued anyway, continued again. And then SS2 going to SS3, I was already about 17. And that was the time it was caught. Let me just cut the story short because we still have other things to talk about. I know my story is a build up. And that night, he was caught by his wife. Before then, I don't know where this bravery came from, but I think I was already getting frustrated with the whole thing. I told my childhood best friend, and she was like, tell mommy. But I said, no, I can't tell mommy. He will send me back to the village. He will even send mommy back to the village, And so I read this James Hadley Chase movie. I can't remember the title, book. I can't remember the title. But that night, some sort of courage came, and I slept with a knife. So when he came that night, I told him, if you touch me this night, I'll either harm myself or stab you. He was like, have you been telling anybody about this? Who have you been telling? I said, nobody. He said, who told you to do this? I said, nobody. He said, okay, I'll leave you. I won't come again. And he left. And I think I had some respite. I used to be a deep sleeper. So sometimes he would even come and even do stuff and go. And when I wake up, I would know that, oh, something has gone wrong again. This man has come again. It now got to a point I stopped sleeping. Whenever it was 12 midnight, I'll just sit up on my mattress and just crouch in one corner because I know he's coming. And then, so he stopped coming after the knife threats for a few weeks. I was happy. I was like the happiest girl. But it was just barely a few weeks. He started coming again. And because he had not come for a few weeks, I think I began to sleep all over again. I began to deep sleep again. So the night he was actually caught by mommy, I was fast asleep. And according to her, because I didn't know what transpired when he was caught. But the next morning, we woke up. I greeted him. I was on long holiday. I can't forget. I was in SS2 going to 3. We were on that long-term holiday. And then he went to work. And then mommy called me into her room and asked me, and gave me a Bible and asked me I should tell her what's been going on between her husband and myself. And I told her, and I was shocked. I said nothing because he had threatened me that anytime I tell, he's going to turn it around. And he already had his way. There were times in the house when I would do something and he would turn it around and mommy would beat the hell out of me. So people used to ask me, oh, while he was sleeping with you, was that some sort of preferential treatment? No, not at all. I still used to get the spanking, the beatings whenever I did wrong with koboko, horsewhip and all that. So the first time she asked, I was shocked. I was afraid. I said, oh, this man had come to turn the story around. The second time she asked, the third time she asked, and then she asked, what have been going on between you two? I said nothing, twice. Then third time she said, what has he been doing to you? That sounded to me more like the question she needed to ask. So I told her he has been touching me. I couldn't even tell her anything before she screamed and started shouting, said, you've killed me. You mean this has been going on? I couldn't even tell her for how long or what exactly it was that was going on. I'm sure she would have died that night if I told her. Because she's, like I said, she was hypertensive. So she ran to a neighbor, she told the neighbor, then they came back to me and said, you do you know it's a curse? Do you know you are possessed? Oh, we have to do deliverance for you. And they took me to a church and they prayed and they asked me to read Psalm 51 for 7 days because I was the bad girl. I was the one who had been seducing daddy for 7 years. And, you know, I wish that I could tell you that it stopped that night, but no. And one thing that still hurts me, maybe that's where we could say mommy made a mistake. You know, before I couldn't really find fault with her. But that night, daddy got back from work, or the next, yes, that night, and nobody said anything. She greeted him, the house, everybody acted normal. The next day, and the next day, and the next day, till my mom died, she never had this conversation with her husband, and that breaks me till date. There was never a time where there was a round table discussion to say, you did this to Toyin? No, it never happened. She went to her grave with that secret, and that hurts me. But you know the irony, when he got back that night, she just told him, Toyin will no longer be sleeping in the parlor. She'll be sleeping with me in the room. And he asked why. She said she's becoming an adult. She's 17 going on 18. She needs proper attention. I need to keep an eye on her so that men will not be, you know. And the man said, no, this is my house. I'm the man of this house. I make the orders. She sleeps in the, and then they had this. My mom had I've never seen her, like I said, she was a typical African woman. So I'd never seen her raise her voice on her husband. And not that she raised her voice that night, but she stood her ground. She said, no, she's staying in the room with me, and that is it. I have to keep an eye on her. What if she comes into this house? But she never went directly to the reason why she wanted me to. So she won. I had a new bedroom. I moved into mommy's bedroom. Should I shock you? He would come to that room whenever we were both deep asleep, and he would touch me right there beside her. And then I remember when it happened, I just started feeling hands all over my body, so I screamed. And she got up and she saw her husband. She said, what happened? Oh, I came to check you whether you are breathing fine. You know, like I told you, she's hypertensive. I came to check you whether you are breathing fine. And so, but Tony just shouted, said maybe she's having, I don't know, maybe she had bad dream. You know, I can't tell people some things because it would sound unbelievable. You know, and it continued like that for a while. And then she would now ask me sometimes, did he come to the room? Did he touch you? I'll say, yes, she's okay. Let us pray. And we would pray that he doesn't come this night. And until I left that house. And I didn't leave the house immediately. I finished WAEC. I was in the house. I had to work for a year because he said I can't go to the university just yet. I worked for a year, gathered money to write JAM before I went to the university in 2005. And I still used to come back to the house to see that same person for another 6 years. And that one used to, oh God. But like I said, when it was time for me to leave Lagos, when I had the golden opportunity, I had to leave that environment. And here I am today. Sharing my story helps me to heal. Because I've not healed completely, and that's the truth. A whole lot happened. Sometimes I always tell people that we cannot justify the act of rape here, but sometimes I wished that it was just a one-off, like man rapes a girl or man rapes, like a one-off. The pain is the same, the trauma is the same, but 7 years is a long time. It was in my adolescence. I was a young girl growing up. And I can practically tell you whatever happened every time for 7 years. So sometimes I have flashbacks, sometimes I have trauma, sometimes I have nightmares. And but I'm healing, and I'm still getting stronger.
Thank you so much, Tony, for sharing your story. I know this will open the minds of parents to pay attention to their kids more. So thank you so much for going deep, going back to a place you might not even want to go back to. So thank you so much for raising this awareness. I appreciate you for this, and I know that is one of the hardest things to do. So thank you so much. So from your story, from your experiences, and I know that because you have a lot of people in your circle so that you talk to, What is our role as parents, guardians, aunties, uncles? How do we tackle, or how do we prevent child sexual abuse? Because the stories, most of the stories, it goes back to the childhood time. So how do we prevent this? And even when it happens, how do we manage it? Because I know that you've had so many people that have shared their experiences with you too. And with your experience, how do we manage? How do we prevent this? When do we start talking to children about it?
Yes. Let's talk about prevention. Thank God when in 2020, the almighty 21st century, even though in Nigeria we're still a bit backward, mine happened in the 90s, early 2000s when there wasn't so much awareness. But now for parents, we know that from the age of 2, because of how smart kids are now, from the age of 2, you need to begin to teach your child. And now I'm talking to both male and female children. People always think, oh, it's the girl child. But you know, our focus today is on the girl child. But again, both children, you need to start teaching them about their body parts, where people should not touch, where people cannot touch. And if people touch them, what they should do. Come and tell mommy. Come and tell daddy. You know. And then, as much as possible, as a mother, as a father, if you can parent your child all by yourself, please do. Most of the sexual abuse cases that we have, even though we have cases of fathers molesting their children, that is, you know, very rare. And sometimes we think there's a bit of diabolism attached to that. But most of the time, it is with people who go to live with relatives, or relatives come to live with them, or they send their children to go and act as helps to some relatives, that it happens. So if you can, within your most, you know, means, parent your child all by yourself, please do. If you must send your child to live with a relative, please educate them enough on when things begin to happen in this certain way. Please tell me whenever, because the mother would go from time to time to visit, yeah? Mm-hmm. So when they come to visit, please tell, you know, your parents what's happening. Is uncle touching you? Is auntie touching you? Is, you know, is James the driver touching your breast or poking you? You know, when you teach them to speak up, it goes a whole lot of ways. It helps a whole lot. And then when, you know, you have to have cousins, friends, family friends come over to live with you in the house, please keep an eagle eye on your children. You can't be too careful with your kids. You can't take things for granted. You can, that's a cousin. He can't harm her. Oh, he can. We've had, then I don't know. These days, parents just need to be more careful. It's not a problem if your kids, even boys and girls, sleep in the same room. But if you can also afford it, let them keep separate rooms. We've had cases where the brother is the one molesting the sister. Mm-hmm. You know, you're wondering, how did that happen? But a whole lot of it is, please, prevention by talking to the children, educating them about their body parts, telling them to always speak up whenever someone touches them inappropriately. For parents, mothers especially, when you are bathing your children, check them. You know, check them and ask them if anybody has touched them here. We've had cases of 5-year-olds, 10-year-olds, 7-year-olds, where it is when the mother is bathing them, they say, oh, he hurts down there. And, oh, did somebody touch you? Then they begin to speak up that, yes, somebody touched them down there. We shouldn't wait for that to happen. So educate, and become friends. That was very important. Love, I don't know how you would birth a child and not love them. It's almost, I don't know. I know some parents have their reasons, they are dealing with a lot, but love your child to the point where they can tell you anything and everything. That would help a lot. Gone are the days of our time where we didn't really have father figure or mother figure. We dare not talk to our parents about certain things. But nowadays, people can actually talk to their parents about everything and anything. So, for us to prevent it, you need to teach them to talk.
Exactly.
Educate them to speak up as often as possible and to manage it. I'm looking at management from the perspective of if it has happened. Mm-hmm. If it has happened once, don't let it happen again. So if it is that let me give a typical Nigerian example. The husband's younger brother comes to the house and molests the 5-year-old child of the woman. I mean, the next morning, that boy should be on his way back to the village, because some people say, oh, should they report? Yes. Report. You have to report. It's abuse. Abuse is abuse. Even if it's the woman's younger brother who has molested her 5-year-old child, report. And take action immediately. So don't wait till, oh, it's a family matter. The boy cannot leave the house. You don't want your husband's families to live with you. That's why you cooked up this story. If it's getting that deep, then the woman should live with her child. Take a break from the marriage. The law allows it. The law allows a woman, abuse these days. It's not until the wife is being abused by the husband. If you are in a marriage where your child is being abused, the woman can take a break from that marriage, until things are, either resolved in some form of way. So for me, those are the management and preventive measures that can be.
Yeah, you said something about reporting, that we should report. But with the way our justice system is set up in Nigeria, we know we have a leadership crisis in practically all aspects of the economy. So if you're saying they should report,
yes.
Do you confidently believe in the law that they will get justice? And how does the process work?
Yes. Let me come from the positive angle first. In reporting, now I always advise people, even though I'm a lawyer, and police stations across Nigeria have what you call the gender unit, which is where when you go to a police station, please, if you have to, because that's usually the first place of reporting, please specifically ask for the gender unit. Sometimes people report to a criminal unit where they're not even schooled on how to handle gender-based issues. Now, if you're in a location where the police station is your first port of call, please ask for the gender unit. That's number one. But look out also for sexual assault referral centers. Because of so much awareness on sexual and gender-based violence, lately, there's a lot of sexual assault referral centers across the country. Or call an NGO. There's also a lot of us around now, so that even if you're going to go to the police station, it's safer if you go with a CSO, that's a civil society organization, like an NGO, who could help you take up the case. Because actually, like you said, and you're not wrong, our justice system is in a mess. It is now that we are beginning to even understand there's conflict as to the age of consent.
I was going to get to the age of consent, yes.
Yes. As to the law that even applies in a particular. Can you imagine Nigeria? You go and report a case in Abuja, for instance, and they tell you, oh, the criminal code does not apply. We have to use the penal code. And in the penal code, it says that age of consent is 15. So we have conflict. And you say, no, I want you to use the VAP Act. And they say, okay. And the VAP Act says age of consent is 18. So we still have all these discrepancies. So, but again, I always tell people, the advantage of reporting is that you can't really tell whether you won't get justice. Sometimes it is the people who have reported who don't want to continue, Sometimes it's because they don't have enough information. Let's use a case as a case study, rape as a case study, sorry. When a child or a young person or even an adult has been raped, we always advise, please do not wash up. Please do not destroy your torn clothes or the pants or whatever it is that you have as evidence at that point in time. Once that is destroyed, the case becomes difficult. So the police themselves are tired. They're like looking at, oh, they'll go to the court and waste time when they don't really have concrete evidence. Immediately go to a medical facility. In Nigeria, they emphasize it has to be a government facility. If it is a private hospital, you run your test, it's inadmissible. We are still fighting all of those legal bottlenecks. But basically, go to a public hospital, get a test done immediately. Don't wash up if you have, if you can not wash up. Because we have adult rape. We have an adult who can be raped and they're like, oh, let me clean up before I go and report. And because people don't understand the concept of rape, that once the word consent is missing, it is rape. So talking about the justice system, yes, it is messy. But yes, we are also getting better at it. Now the federal government has set up a committee on gender-based, yes, I was reading it in the news 2 days ago, a committee on gender-based violence. We have a whole lot of that, really. But again, it also depends on who is handling the matter. And for me, that's why I use social media. Most of the cases I've had, I will involve Punch, I will involve the media, I will involve News Agency of Nigeria, because once they help me to propagate it, it's going to be difficult for them to try to stifle that matter, except for some that are very sensitive because of the age. Children, there's some cases we don't, report about openly because of the age and all of that. But those ones you could see, maybe the hymen is broken, so there's overwhelming evidence. Some, the person has gotten pregnant from the rape, there's overwhelming evidence. So there's a whole lot. But the justice system is getting better. Let me be positive in this because I'm also in that field. But again, I also, as a lawyer, always have problems with the police whenever we go. And we even educate them on what the law says and how to apply it. So, and they're also improving by the day. But, it's better when you report. You just know that, okay, somebody is aware of it. They're not even reporting at all because you don't believe that you'd get justice. Let it be on record that you have come to report a case of rape of a 10-year-old girl by a 50-year-old man on so-so date at so-so location. Then they will carry out the investigation. The report of the investigation will now determine whether we want to proceed to court. And sometimes for me, justice is not really about, it's not only on going to court. You could get justice by healing. You could get justice. In my NGO, I do something that is very proactive, which a lot of people commend us for. We confront the abuser. We could locate the abuser and this is what you have done. And this is the step we want to take. We've had a case where the man begged so much. And even the girl was crying that she didn't want the man to go to prison because he was actually a caretaker. Her parents had died. She was 19, preparing to write WAEC. And they kept her with the man from church, thinking that, oh, this man of God would help us protect this 19-year-old girl. And every night he would go to her room and read her the Bible, read a part of Revelation to her, and then begin to touch her and molest her. It was very strange, but it happened. We went to confront the man in Ibadan. And he was full of regret. Of course, they will tell you the devil that is on his own tempted them, And then we told him we were going to report him to FIDA, and then he begged and begged. And then when we called the girl also, because she was even 19, and then luckily it had not gotten to. It was molestation, because it's still an abuse, and the law recognizes molestation. So she pleaded with us, and we now had them to meet face to face, and the man begged, and she said she didn't want him to go to prison, and then the man wrote an undertaking never to touch her again. Though of course we also told the man that she wouldn't live in that house again, but she found closure, in the man genuinely apologizing to her. And then the man later on confessing to his wife by himself what he did. And we were able to close that case just like that. And she was happy. I still get in touch with her today. She's fine. She has gained admission now into the university and she's doing just fine. That is justice. Even though we didn't get it from the courts or from the man going to jail. So, that's where we weigh the scale. But when we have a case of a rape of a 5-year-old, you have the hymen is broken, you have maybe the poor child is bleeding, we have all the evidence, we'll go all out, go to court. We also have to know the law to apply. So in FCT, I wouldn't use the criminal code or the penal code. I'll use the VAT Act, the Violence Against Persons Act, which has been, passed into law and is very effective in the FCT in Nigeria. I will succeed with that. If I use another kind of law, I may not also succeed. So those are the things we also need to understand why people sometimes also feel they do not get justice. The person you have reported to, the people handling the matter, the law applied, the steps you're taking, evidence provided, those are the things that determine, how much justice you would get.
Thank you so much for that. You mentioned consent, and I wanted us to talk about that. But before then, as a legal practitioner, I want you to define rape and sexual abuse, because I don't want to use the word brainwashed, but in movies, the only thing we see is the person has to, strangle you, there has to be like a physical beating or something before, because you see people talking loosely on social media in the comment section. Is it not rape? It's disgusting. So I want you to define this word, this 4-letter words for us as a legal practitioner. What does it encompass?
In fact, I'm going to define it using the Violence Against Persons Act so that we just know that that's the legal. It says rape is non-consensual intercourse with a woman through the vagina, anus, or mouth without consent, or by force, or by fraud, and other things they listed. So the key word there is non-consensual. And that's why we've come when we have forums and we educate people, we say we've had cases like that. There's a boyfriend and a girlfriend. They're in the room. They've started getting intimate. They've been started kissing, and then the lady says, "Stop." "Oh no, I don't want to continue. Stop." And the guy says, "Oh, come on, I'm already, please." And he goes on ahead. That's rape under the law, because she said stop, even though you guys were, halfway through. Those ones are always very hard to prove, like I told you. But it's because of our mentality in Nigeria, and as Nigerians, we do not respect, the word consent. In fact, we've watered it down so much that we always have issues with defining it. But that is what the law says, non-consensual. Those other things about, gaggling her and choking her, at the extreme end, by force or by fraud. So you mean you could actually lure, when a man lures a young girl to the house to rape her, and the girl willingly maybe, "Oh, come to my house, you're selling bananas, okay, come with me, I have your money inside my house." It happened in a hotel in Abuja. A 24-year-old, she walked in the hotel, and the man bought a drink and said, "Oh, come to my room upstairs to take your money." Normally they said the hotel does not even allow them enter. So she got upstairs and stood at the entrance, and then the man opened the door and pulled her into his room. Because she was an adult, 24, she was, "Oh, sir, please, no, stop." They're like, "Oh, come on, you're not a young girl. How much is your bill? I'll pay you." I said, "Oh, no, 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 no." And then before you know, he, of course, obviously, was probably half drunk, pushed her to the bed, gagged her throat, and he raped her. And, she immediately stopped and realized himself. She started screaming. So the whole hotel, everybody came out. It was all over the media as well. I handled that matter. And everybody came out, and they saw the semen dripping down her, and said, "I've just been raped." And he was trying to deny it initially, but then this was a hotel staff. She was just barely 3 days working in that hotel. If she wanted to have consensual sex, I'm sure they would have had a better arrangement, not in her workplace. Eventually, after he ran away to Port Harcourt, we got him. He came down, we locked him up. Eventually, he confessed and said, "Oh, truly, he raped her." And then we were able to deal with that matter. So the key word there is consent. The moment it is non-consensual, it is rape. It is rape. It's the only place we have so much difficulties in marriages. Nigerian law does not recognize that a man can actually rape his wife.
Yeah.
We're still dealing with that, but we know there is marital rape. We do know that there is marital rape, but that is the definition of rape legally. Okay. Non-consensual intercourse.
Okay, we have like less than 10 minutes, so I wanted you to also, wow, as in like, I'm like, wow. I wanted you to link this to men, because I know that boys are also being abused too, and boys are also being raped too. How does this apply to men? How can they, I don't know, probably it's difficult to talk. I don't know if you've had experience of a boy child too.
I've not had a personal experience, but we've had stories. But what I understand is that emotionally, the way a boy, based on his physiology, psychology, responds to abuse is the reverse of the lady. A typical boy who is being abused actually feels sensation and enjoyment, no matter how young the boy is. So there's something in the head telling the boy, "Oh, this is sweet, let me enjoy it." But the fact that the boy, for instance, is underage, below 18, and anybody else, usually aunties, mommy's friends, who does that to them is abuse. So most times we have less cases of boys reporting abuse because the first thing is they enjoy it. That's the truth. It's just that thing. So it's a sensation. It goes through their body. They enjoy it. The woman, of course, at some point feels pain. Even if they're going to enjoy it, it will be maybe much later. And I don't know if you understand. So the response, the boy feels, oh, this thing I enjoyed. It's not a bad thing after all. But I have a friend who is a full-grown man now, and he says the reason why he loves sex so much is because he started when they used to touch him when he was 5, and he continued like that. So he has gotten so used to it, and he thought it was normal. So becoming an adult now, but now when you talk and you play it back, I know for boys it's even more difficult to prove. There's no hymen that is broken. There is nobody. There are also physiological and psychological
effect
changes,
of that
and
on
that's why
them.
parents need to be, very attentive to their children. The boy becomes, withdrawn, doesn't talk more, or begins to behave inappropriately, begins to touch a girl. So those are, signals. And at that point, if the boy is still a child and the parent is able to make them open up, they can still take it up because who's been touching you? And Ngozi, why does she touch you? My penis. We tell them, don't call it PP or what those funny names.
Call it by its name.
Call it by its name. So they can confront that way. Like I said, you can confront the abuser. And no matter how much they try to deny it, parents should also learn to believe their children.
First.
Before your 10, 7, 8-year-old will tell you, Auntie Ngozi has been touching me, he's not going to cook that up. It must have happened. So it's difficult for boys, and they grow, like I said, they bottle it all up in. They don't even understand that it's abuse because they enjoy it, and they grow up as men. And that's why there's some men who become abusive. There's some men who are violent today who also rape women were abused. We've had stories like that they were.
So it's like a circle of abuse going on too.
Yes, it's a cycle.
But that is not usually the case.
No, that's not usually the case.
So before we round off, I wanted you to also talk about consent. I know you've mentioned it continuously, and if you go on Google right now and you just say, countries with the lowest age of consent, you just see African countries, some parts of South Africa, Zimbabwe. You just see all these countries, and then Nigeria now takes the lead, saying the age of consent is 11. So I know you have the books of the law. So tell us, is it true? Is it 11? Where are we contradicting ourselves here?
No, the problem is that the North, the traditional marriage age in the North is 12 to 14 years. But that does not mean it is the age of consent. So the typical Northern man who is educated would marry the girl at 12 and wait till she's 18 before he begins to have sex with her. In Akwa Ibom, they will tell you, Ankwara, they'll tell you age of consent is 16. In Jigawa, they said their law says it's 15. The 11 years was, back in the days in our penal codes and some. But like I said, the Violence Against Persons Act, which is the law, and the Lagos State Domestic Violence Act, gives the age of consent as 18. So, please, if you're on this live session, please spread the word. The age of consent in Nigeria is 18. Now, it also does not mean that somebody who is above 18 cannot be raped or abused or molested. We were not able to define the different terms, but they have their own meanings, but they're all abused. So the age of consent legally is actually 18. We no longer apply the law that says it's 11. It's an old law. It's been amended. Let's use that word. It's been rebuilt into the VAP Act, which we are trying to domesticate in every state in Nigeria. If we're able to domesticate the VAP Act in every state in Nigeria, both in the north, they will be able to use the penal code and all those other laws that allows them to pin the age of consent at a lesser age than 18. So consent is 18.
Okay, so age of consent is 18. Okay, so thank you so much, Toyin. Thank you so much for sharing your experience.
I don't know, we spent so much
honestly
time.
I think I have like 2 minutes left, and you have these conversations, and before you know it, time is up. So thank you so much. Thank you for all that you do too. Now, in like less than a minute, please tell us what you do with your NGO. Tell us what
Okay. Like I said, Jewels Hive Initiative, we provide safe spaces for victims of sexual abuse. We provide counseling and some form of therapy. We report cases to the authorities. We encourage people to speak up. We mentor, and then we also confront the abuser. We usually call it the scream objective. So we confront the abuser basically, and when we report to authorities, we do not stop there. We take it all the way to we're able to get justice. And then we use our social media to also, carry on with the campaign, provide